Hi, I'm Nathan Kelber. I'm the Digital Humanities Fellow at JSTOR Labs, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Plant Humanities Workbench using linked open data to discover early modern plant history. First of all, you may be wondering, what is JSTOR Labs? JSTOR Labs is the experimental wing of JSTOR. We partner with publishers, libraries, and labs to create tools for researchers, teachers, and students that are immediately useful and a little bit magical. Some of our projects you may recognize: Understanding Shakespeare, the Interview Archive, which I'll talk a little bit about in this presentation, the Plant Humanities Initiative, which is the main focus of this presentation, Higher Education in Prisons, and the Text and Data Mining Pedagogical Platform. If you'd like to check out any of these projects, go to labs.jstor.org. And here's our agenda for the day. First, I'll introduce the Plant Humanities Initiative. What is it and how did it get started? I'll give a basic introduction to linked open data. I'll talk about the Interview Archive, a project which preceded the Plant Humanities Initiative. We'll take a quick hands-on look at the visual essay tool, and I'll talk about what's next on the horizon for the Plant Humanities Initiative. What is the Plant Humanities Initiative? At its core, it's a partnership between JSTOR and Dumbarton Oaks. Now, I've already introduced JSTOR. Let me tell you about Dumbarton Oaks. Dumbarton Oaks is a research institute, museum, and historic garden founded in 1940 and affiliated with Harvard University. It's located in Washington, D.C. They have a world-class research library and a rare book collection, particularly strong in garden history, landscape architecture, botany, and plant history. They're also home to a residential fellowship program in garden and landscape studies that's flourished since the 1970s, and they're complemented by short-term awards, conferences, graduate workshops, study days, and a roster of visiting scholars. They have a professional staff that includes librarians, archivists, and an in-house publication department. And they also have other resources, including state-of-the-art housing, dining, research facilities, and a historic garden. The Plant Humanities Initiative was created to spur research in a new area intersecting the digital and environmental humanities. The initiative is generously funded by the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation through two sister grants, one for Dumbarton Oaks for educational and research efforts, including visiting fellows to develop research in this new area. The second grant went to JSTOR to create a new digital tool, the Plant Humanities Workbench. This tool uses linked open data to help researchers discover and share the history of plants. Let's talk about linked open data. Let's consider what it means for data to be linked. If data is linked, it can be connected across many sources, and that means it has a compatible information format. It can be a shared repository of human knowledge, and it's structured for easy discovery, both by humans and by computers. Linking information is an ancient problem. One person can call something a tomato, the next person calls it a tomato. One person calls something a potato, the other person calls it a potato. But then there's also spud, and tater, and tato, and tatin, and the list just keeps growing and growing. So how do we connect all of the world's information about a concept that has many different words? For hundreds of years, scientists have used a single language to try to do such a thing: Latin. By using Latin, scientists have been able to connect a single word to potato. This doesn't work all the time, though, and it doesn't help us when we're trying to connect data. For example, what if we took the philosopher Galen? He's also known as Aelius Galenus, Galen of Pergamon, Claudio Galeno. Should we just use the Latin name for all people? What linked open data does is it takes every type of entity and it creates a unique ID number that connects all the different names together. This is called a QID. Linked open data has IDs not just for people and places and things, but also for relationships. Here's the entry for potato in the popular linked open data repository Wikidata. We can see the QID at the top, Q10998. There's tons of information in here, including the name of potato in many different languages, images of potatoes, taxonomic information about potatoes, and perhaps most importantly, there's an incredible number of links to other potato repositories, that is, other linked open data repositories that have information about potatoes. Each one of these identifiers links to another repository that has information about potatoes. How do you like them potatoes? Usually when we think about data, we think about data in the form of a table. In this case, an Excel spreadsheet. Linked open data is stored as semantic data. It uses a special form called triples to make statements. This takes the form of a subject, object, predicate. So for example, we could say Agnes Arbour was a botanist. Each part of that sentence can have a unique identifier, the subject, the object, and the predicate. This allows us to connect all different kinds of data together. Here we have early plant scientists, Carolus Clusius and Garcia de Orta, as well as some early works on plant history. We can connect people, works, and dates using linked open data methods. Each connection forms a triple between a subject, object, and predicate. These connections can be combined to create linked open data that forms a web. At JSTOR Labs, we've created our own repository called a semantic graph of linked open data that connects with Wikidata. We started this work with the Interview Archive. The Interview Archive is a collaboration with JSTOR and the Kuhnhart Film Foundation to create a linked open data research repository based on King in the Wilderness, an HBO special on the final months of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. The film features personal interviews with significant figures in the civil rights movement close to Dr. King, including C.T. Vivian and John Lewis, who recently passed away. Of course, much of the precious footage had to be cut from the film, but the Interview Archive allows you to watch all of the interviews in full. By using linked open data, JSTOR has created an interface that makes it easy for researchers and students to learn more. This is the Interview Archive website. It features 19 interviews with people who were close to King or were significant figures in the civil rights movement. If you're interested in a particular topic, say SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, you can select it from a word cloud of popular topics. There are 1,128 topics tagged in the interviews. When you click on SNCC, you'll be taken to a page that breaks out all the sections of the interview where SNCC is discussed. This is a dream come true for oral historians. You can also watch the whole film or particular interview with the person you want to learn about. Simply navigate to the person you're interested in and their interview loads. A window shows the full text of the interview below the video. This is not just video though, it's supercharged with extra information thanks to linked open data. When John Lewis mentions particular names, places, people, or concepts, they appear in a tab on the right-hand side. We can click on any topic to be presented with basic definition and links to other mentions of the topic in the Interview Archive, articles and chapters from JSTOR, and also images on ArtStore. Creating the Interview Archive gave us experience creating linked open data in our own semantic graph that we were able to connect to Wikidata and other data sources. We discovered how to use linked open data for effective video annotation. With the Plant Humanities Workbench, we have decided to push our experience with linked open data in new directions, including book history and geography. The real power of this approach can be seen in the visual essay tool we have developed. Let's take a quick look. Please keep in mind this tool is under active development, so all features may not work correctly at this time. You'll see several current essays being edited by fellows at Dumbarton Oaks. Each essay describes the history of a particular plant through a combination of visual essay elements, including interactive maps, images, plant specimens, and primary source materials. Let's take a look at agave, the plant famous for the production of tequila. Inside each essay, you'll see rich imagery borrowed from historical books, many of them in the rare book collection at Dumbarton Oaks. We are implementing a IIIF viewer into the visual essay tool that allows users to zoom in and manipulate images in high resolution. This includes images from sources such as the Biodiversity Heritage Library, but also plant specimens, such as those found within JSTOR Global Plants, the world's largest database of digitized plant specimens. There is also support in the visual essay tool for mapping. Based on leaflet and GeoJSON, researchers can also cite their work in a bibliography found at the bottom of the essay. Keywords or topics can be linked to their QID so that definitions, images, and other information are quickly accessible. If you're curious how the essays are written, you can click on the hamburger in the top left to reveal an option for viewing the markdown. Markdown is a simplified version of HTML that is easy to learn. There's also a growing help section for learning more about how the essays are written using Markdown. The files necessary for the essay sit in a GitHub repository, a combination of Markdown, which is a simplified version of HTML, and GeoJSON files for mapping. Finally, let's talk about what's on the horizon for the Plant Humanities Workbench. Our goal is to release the Plant Humanities Workbench to the public as a beta and proof of concept in October. This month, we are creating more essays with a new group of summer fellows at Dumbarton Oaks who are writing plant histories. If you'd like to write your own essays, we plan to open a public beta of the Plant Humanities Workbench to the public in October. We hope the Visual Essays tool will be useful even beyond the Plant Humanities Initiative for those interested in crafting interactive essays using linked open data, IIIF images, and mapping. Thanks for following the project. We hope you'll share it with others and check out our other digital humanities projects at labs.jstor.org.